happy International Women's Day to all you amazing women out there. And of course, all you shearers out there doing amazing work across diverse endeavors, juggling the home front, and then your careers doing amazing work. Kudos to you. A big shout out to you. And don't forget to go out, celebrate yourself, and celebrate one another. Be a huge fan of women supporting women. Well, today we are talking about epilepsy awareness and how to help someone having a seizure. Well, we're going to go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll introduce our guest. Don't forget, my name is Chigiti Agoram, and this is Inside Health.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Thanks for joining us. This is still Inside Health, and today we are discussing epilepsy awareness and how to help someone having a seizure. What is a seizure? When can I know when someone beside me is having a seizure, and what should I do? Well, our guest is a nurse consultant. She's Nurse Chidera Okoye. She's in the studio, and she's going to bring a lot of perspective into this subject matter. Hi, Chidera. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
You know, the last time we saw, you were doing a lot of talk, a lot of demonstrations.
Yes.
And today you're here in the studio, so you're going to talk to us about so many of those things that you did the last time we saw at an event. So let's start from the basics. What is epilepsy?
Well, okay, so epilepsy is a neurological disorder. Although many may see it as a mental illness, but I'd like to correct that misconception. It's a neurological disorder that affects the brain, and it manifests, it's characterized by recurrent and unprovoked seizures. So that's why you see most of the people that have this epilepsy, they manifest maybe through stiffness or jerkings, that's a convulsion. So I believe that through this awareness, we're able to accept these people and reduce the marginalizations of people living with this condition.
Now,
Yes.
are seizures epilepsy? Are they one and the same?
No, okay, that's a very good question. So seizures and epilepsy, they are not the same. Although some may use it interchangeably, but they are similar. So the major difference here is seizure. The simple thing is the characteristics of epilepsy.
Okay.
Seizure is a discharge of electric current, a disturbance in the electric currents of the brain. And if you notice, seizures are more, there's always a trigger, a known cause, but it's left for the doctor to diagnose. And seizures are not recurrent.
What does that mean?
Meaning it doesn't occur frequently like the epilepsy. Seizures is maybe once or twice. But for a person to be diagnosed properly of epilepsy, it has to be done by the doctor.
All right.
So epilepsy, on the other hand, is a neurological disorder and is characterized by recurrent, the key word is recurrent and unprovoked seizures.
Okay.
So you see now is recurrent, is unprovoked,
Okay.
and most times it may be, the cause may be unknown. And this epilepsy is always good to see a doctor when you experience seizures for him to properly identify the cause, to know if it's epilepsy or it's just maybe a seizure that is transitional.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that epilepsy can cause seizures, but
Yes.
epilepsy is not the only known cause of
seizure,
seizures.
yes.
All right, interesting what you said about epilepsy awareness. I'm going to
Yes.
call for a special report and see exactly what some people are out there are doing to make people aware of epilepsy. So do take a listen to this.
Okay.
Are sudden temporary disturbances in brain function that can alter a person's behavior, sensation, or consciousness. Various factors can trigger seizures, including epilepsy, head injuries, infection, and certain medications. The Seizure Support Foundation recognizes the importance of comprehensive training, including cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. A medical practitioner and CEO of Seizure Support Foundation, Dr. Chigi Chiagorom, highlighted the significance of empowering the younger generation to be more responsive and proactive in healthcare. She said that by leveraging their digital strengths, they can drive positive change, particularly in providing first aid and CPR. The comprehensive approach, according to her, can enhance community responsiveness and improve health outcomes.
I didn't grow up or start off wanting to fly a non-governmental organization. It was a personal experience with my son. I was trying to reach out when his own issue started. I was trying to reach out to organizations that cater to children with special needs. I was trying to reach out to find respite. I was trying to reach out to find support because I was a young mother. I was doing other things. I had other kids. It was kind of like a little too much for me. But I couldn't find any sort of organization who cater to such people. So I had a friend, he's late now, God rest his soul, a doctor. He was one that said, "Chidi, why don't you start an NGO?" I laughed it off, but here we are today, right? Doing the very same thing, trying to bring awareness, respite, support, advocacy, for kids with special needs.
Chidera Okoye, a nurse, provided a comprehensive overview of seizures, using the safety guide to illustrate how to attend to a seizure patient, including post-ictal care. Dr. Emmanuel Carlo, a cardiophysiotherapist, and his team of medical experts shared their expertise on resuscitating patients who fainted using the CPR method.
Okay, so the causes of seizure may differ depending on the condition of the patient at hand. It may be epilepsy. Sometimes you may find out it may be a brain tumor. It can even be an infection, a high fever. So anything that is capable of disturbing the electrical charges of the brain can cause a seizure. Although there's a misconception that epileptic patients mostly have seizure, or it has been disproved a lot of times. There are several causes, so the identification is not for us. What we came here to do is to teach students how to take care of this person that is having this seizure. Then the causes is left for the medical practitioners to identify.
My advice to everyone today is, in anywhere you are, even in school, try to give up what you have or what you have learned to save humanity.
I'd like to first of all appreciate the program organizers that came to the school to teach us about seizure and CPR, how we are going to attend to patients who unconsciously have issues.
Mostly I watched a documentary on TV about the seizure brain cells, so I see how people suffer a lot, because you see if somebody in the public will just start vibrating and just start falling on the ground. Nobody is there nobody knows about it, so nobody can help the person. Instead, we Nigerians will just carry our phone, we start videoing. But this group now, they came here to tell us how we can help others.
The procedure they taught us on like how to position the person, what to tell the person when the person is in that kind of situation. I don't know that if you do it according to the way we are being taught, the person will actually recover and get himself.
The event featured a question and answer session where students and facilitators engaged in a proactive discussion. With this training, the Seizure Support Foundation aims to empower young minds to make a difference in their communities promoting a culture of selfless services and volunteerism. Chinemerem Ikebuna, Signature TV News.
If you're just joining us, this is still Inside Health, and we're talking epilepsy awareness and how to help someone having a seizure. Our guest in the studio is Nurse Chidera Okoye. Chidera, you saw the special report.
Yes.
You played a major role.
Yes.
We saw you there, granting an interview. Could you give us an overview of what the program was all about, really? Because, you mentioned something before we went on a break. You mentioned about epilepsy awareness. So
yes.
in respect to awareness, how robust was the program? Just tell us all we need to know about the program.
So I believe that aspect was media campaigns and educational awareness. So I believe we're able to exhaust to our minds the major things that this student needs to know at the basic level.
Okay.
So we're able to discuss what epilepsy is, the causes, and most importantly, the first aid you can give to this person having this epilepsy, because that's the most important thing. We needed to relieve them of this anxiety that comes with, epileptic episode. So I believe from the few lectures we gave them, they have become more confident, and this confidence they can transfer to others by educating them. So this is the best educational attempt we've had. These are students at the first level, second and third, and these students, they're still growing, and they have families, I believe, so they can always teach others. So if they're able to learn eventually, like we expect, the marginalization, the stigma, believe, will be reduced, and hence we'll be improving the quality of life of people living with epilepsy conditions.
Right. You have talked about what epilepsy is. You have differentiated it from seizures. Now, what are the types of epilepsy?
Okay, so the types of epilepsy is actually complex for non-health professionals to understand.
Just break it down to the basic minimum
so
that it can be
have,
understood.
two major types. So we have the generalized type of seizure. So this type of seizure is where you normally see unconsciousness as a characteristics. So you also see people having something we call tonic clonic. So tonic stiffness, and then they can move to convulsions, that's jerkings, clonic. And this seizure, generalized seizure, it affects both parts of the brain, the two hemispheres of the brain. So that's generalized seizure. That's a simple breakdown I can give it.
Okay.
Then the other type, we other call it partial or focal seizure. Partial or focal seizures. So these partial or focal seizures is also divided, can be further divided into two. We have the simple partial and the complex partial. So you see what I'm saying is actually difficult. But, so the simple partial now has a characteristics of consciousness during the seizure. So I don't know if people watch movies where you see someone having seizures, then they're having this repetitive movement, but they are awake. So it's mostly these simple partial seizures.
Are they aware?
Sometimes they may sense that it's about to happen. So maybe cooking or some maybe eating, and they will start having this repetitive movement. So if your family members are aware, they will let you go through the episode, and then after the episode they will assist you and tell you to rest. So the other part, the complex partial now, is more encompassing. They're also unconscious during this type of seizure. But the major difference between general and simple, that's the simple or focal, the partial or focal seizure, is the generalized seizure affects both parts, two hemispheres of the brain, while the focal seizure affects one part of the brain. Okay. So it's always good to visit your doctor, consult
You've made
health
it abundantly
professionals.
clear.
Yes, consult, because we have an issue of, self-diagnosing ourselves or picking.
Even with epilepsy?
Yes. Some people, I've seen cases of people that say, oh, apply this stuff on the baby's head. It will make him stop having seizure. Because during this training, this educational training I've been, then people ask questions. They say, "Akwa one way ha, you get the way ha see."
I thought that was for hiccups.
Some will say it's for seizure because some can't even differentiate. I even thought it was for seizure, hiccups, although it doesn't have effect. It doesn't have any effect on these hiccups too.
Yes.
So you see a lot of people bringing up their ideas, and some tell you when he starts, beat him up, beat him, then he'll come back to his senses.
Okay, we're still going to go into the myths because there are several myths. Some are laughable, others are just annoying.
Yes.
We'll get into it. But tell me, how can someone know when someone beside him or her is experiencing a seizure? What are the signs, the outward signs that, hey, this person is going through a seizure?
So the most outward sign is there's this thing we call the aura. Some give out a loud cry. That's because the muscles of the windpipe, the airway, has contracted. Some also experience this muscle stiffness. That's the tonic. Their muscles become stiff while they fall. Some may move immediately to jerkins, the clonic. So personally, you can't visualize it. These are just the outward signs. The person himself or herself can know when these things are about to start.
But the person can know.
Yeah, some of them.
So if they can know, is there anything they can do for themselves before the episode actually goes into full blown?
For the studies I've seen and from the people I've experienced, some may tell you they will notice this visual disturbance of flash lights across their eyes. Some may say they have this, they hear this music. Some may say they perceive unpleasant smells. They may even taste unpleasant. Those are sensory symptoms. So at that point, once they notice that they have this feeling that we're about to experience this seizure at this point. So that's a subjective feeling now. But the more outward ones are these ones I listed out: the stiffness, the jerking, and the loud cry. So once you notice that, we're still going to discuss how to assist those people.
Yes, we're actually going into it now. So because you have defined it, told us the different types and how to identify someone who is having a seizure. Now, we need to understand from the awareness campaign that you had some 2 weeks ago, the one that we had the special report showing, there was an acronym that was used. If you can just take us through that acronym, so that, because these things, when they happen in real life, it's a little bit overwhelming for the person looking at the, the victim or the patient. So if there's an acronym that can help them, recall the steps they need to take, so let's just hear the acronym and see how the viewer can imbibe, those acronyms whenever the situation presents itself. They can, rise to the occasion.
Okay, so the acronym is safety.
Okay.
SAFETY. So S stands for stay calm.
Okay.
Stay calm.
We're talking about the person helping the patient.
The person helping. Stay calm, reassure the crowds, reassure the patient or the person at that point. That's for S. So the most important thing is for you to be confident in yourself. That's staying calm. Because if you're anxious as the person with the knowledge, how will others that don't have that knowledge react? So we'll tell you to stay calm. Okay, that's for S. Then the next one is A.
T, stay, T. Right?
We've done S now.
Okay,
so the
S.
acronym.
Okay.
So we're moving to A.
Okay, safety.
Safety.
Okay.
So we're moving to A.
Okay.
A is avoid restraints, avoid any kind of obstacles or any obstructions.
Sometimes people go to hold them.
Yes.
When they are jerking.
Yes. So when we also say any kind of obstructions or any kind of thing around the environment, some don't actually expect those seizures. They are unexpected, they are unprovoked sometimes. It may be in a dining room, maybe in the kitchen, maybe outside in the market. So we want to make the environment safe for them. So we may push out obstacles, disperse the crowd to enable fresh air ventilation. So that's for A. Avoid any kind of obstructions or obstacles around the environment. That's for A. Okay, so we're moving to the next F. Freedom, free the patient, free the client of any restraints, free the individual of any restraints. So they may be wearing tight clothes on their neck, you loosen it up, and it's at this point that it's good to turn them to the side. So during that training we had, I was demonstrating on how to turn this patient to the side. So the reason being is important that at that point they don't have anything obstructing their airway.
Okay, when you say turning to the side, like someone who wants to sleep with his or her side, that's the position you're talking about.
Yes, turn them to the side. If there's anything to prop up the head,
to lift the head up a little.
Lift the head up with pillow, bags, books, anything at that point you improvise.
Can you use their hands and put it under their head?
We always cross their hand like this, so we don't like using their hands. So we normally put things there. So reason being, we want any residuals, any spit, we don't want reflux happening at that point because they may be unconscious. So we turn them to the side and let them be comfortable. So that's for F. So the next one is E. They're almost resemblance. So E is ensure that the airway is clear, which is what we've done now, turning them to the side. Okay, some may go ahead if you're an expert to open their mouth if it's because some points at that seizure their teeth
is clenched.
So just turn them to that side, ensure the airway is free, which you've done by loosening any tight clothing on their neck. So that's for E. So another important aspect is timing the seizure. That's T. Timing the seizure. So why we say it's important is once it bypasses, once it moves past 5 minutes
of active seizure,
yes, then you need to call for emergency. But in this our country, in this situation, we can actually move to the person to the hospital. Okay, because at that point there's this type of seizure, status epilepticus, and it's a serious type of seizure. So we don't want anything happening to this patient. So once it passes 5 minutes, it's always good to call for emergency. So timing is good. Time the duration, assess and see the things he does during those seizures. Then the last one is why. That's for the safety. The last one is why. Yield to medical professional advice. So in essence, it means for you to look out for a doctor, engage the doctors, consult them for things like this. So this may be happening to certain people at home. The decision may stop. They'll be like, oh, on a wake up that or your posa. Don't stop at that point. Ask for medical advice. It's always good to identify the causes. So that's the last one, why. So maybe at the end of the seizure, if you're not conversant with the cause of that seizure, it's always good to seek medical advice. Or even if you're conversant with it, you may still seek medical advice to know if there's any effect it has on you. Okay, so that's the acronym.
The simple
step-by-step
protocol. I love it.
So I hope they remember.
It's pretty easy. Safety. Yes. Okay, so you mentioned something about clenching of the teeth, right? Because there are stories where people try to use spoons, sticks, all manner of things. Then some people will tell you put manu ojuku. Some people say cut up onions and put there. I mean, so many things.
Yes.
Even urine. I've heard.
I've not heard of that.
So, please, can you debunk some of these things? And then they will tell you that if you don't keep it open, that they will bite their tongues off.
Eventually.
So
just tell
us.
So they may be bleeding. the clenching of the teeth is not something they can control. It's the muscles that are contracting and stiffening. So medically, it is not appropriate to insert anything into their mouth at that point. It may cause more harm. You understand? So you don't insert anything. You don't give them anything to drink.
But as they are clenching their teeth, shouldn't
The
it be
injuries
advisable
are.
to open up the teeth so lest they
I
bite
always
their
thought,
tongue?
before venturing into this profession, I always thought it was good to put at least padded stuffs in between their teeth. While some may argue that they don't want putting anything that may be more harmful. Because what if the person bites up and breaks the thing, and then they have is retained inside?
Oh my goodness!
So you see, and what if you use the iron? At that point, their teeth. I've seen someone that has this thing. Her teeth is so clenched, so hard. So some may put iron, like metal spoons,
Won't it
into
break
them.
the teeth at that
You
point?
see, you're causing more harm. Some may wake up with cracked tooth.
Oh.
So we just advise. The injuries are most times unavoidable, but it's not like it causes major harm to them. So maybe after this episode, clean up if there's any bleeding. Just clean it up. Okay.
Okay, can you take us through some of the misconceptions that you have seen in the field or in the course of your training as regards epilepsy?
Okay, so the major misconception, there are plethora of them, but the major one is that epilepsy is contagious. Epilepsy is contagious. So you see some ones
Don't
that
let the
start
spittle
having,
touch you. Don't let the spittle touch you.
some won't even go near them. So you see that once you don't do what you're supposed to do for them, all this training is, the aim is now
Defeated.
the hair. So you see these people, once they have that episode, they avoid them, they run away. Don't touch them, or you may have it, or you get hit butia. So epilepsy is not contagious. Yes, it's genetic, means it may run in the family. It's hereditary too. It runs in the family. But it doesn't mean that once you touch them, it's transferable, it's transmitted. No, epilepsy is not contagious. That's one misconception. Then another misconception I've heard is that people that are epileptic, they are prone to violence. I've not seen, but through research, I've seen that some say they are prone to violence, that they behave violent more than others. But I've not actually seen.
Is there a study to back that up?
No, that's why it's a misconception. There's no logical sense to it, because some people are short-tempered, whether they're epileptic or not. So why will you pick a particular people and say, oh,
And stereotype them. that
stereotype them? So it's not good.
You know, there was something you mentioned, and you said before some patients go into the episode, either they perceive a particular odor or they taste, sensory issues.
Yes.
And somebody might be out there and say, is that not a spiritual thing? Yeah, you're sensing something that is not there. It's not a spiritual thing. So can you debunk the myth that epilepsy is probably a spiritual,
So
either a curse or something like that?
That's why it's genetic, and sometimes it's unknown. These scientists, they research each day to find out new causes. So that sensory, the mind is an abstract, is a compound of its own, it's profound, and the things it can do are beyond us. So the ones I just listed that are the sensory, just the sensory symptoms, aspects. We also have other aspects that can indicate an imminent epileptic seizure. Why they move to that part. So those sensory ones, they are subjective to the person feeling that has it. So they should just know that this is the mind, this is the brain that has this issue. So there are certain parts, depending on the parts of that brain that is affected. If it has to do with the senses, there's a much possibility that these senses that are controlled by that part of the brain will be affected during the seizure.
Now, you've spoken a lot about the causes of epilepsy, most of which we don't even know the causes of epilepsy. Now, is there a particular age bracket that is more prone to epilepsy, or can it happen at any time?
So
What is the predisposition
the
in terms of age?
the age bracket solely depends on the cause.
Okay.
The cause I've seen some have prenatal, that's why in the womb.
Okay, so
Yes.
before we go to the, just list some of those causes, the known causes.
Okay,
that
the
is.
known causes.
Yeah.
So first is family history, that's genetic mutations is the organ pata pata.
Of them
Sometimes
all.
yes, it runs in the so some may not even know. It may just be something that triggered you. You notice that, oh, I have a seizure.
Really?
Yes, they have triggers.
Wow.
So
Sounds like something you see on a sci-fi film.
Yes.
Or something will just trigger you.
So some have triggers, but the main thing is genetic, is the major influence in the cause. Then we can move down to medical causes, like you've heard of cerebral malaria, where children have high fever and they start having seizures. So those causes now, they can be, cured, cure the cause, and then the
seizures
seizure will
will
stop.
stop.
It can be an infection, it can be a brain tumor. Yes. So that's why we don't diagnose on our own. Some causes are idiopathic, that is
It's
unknown.
unknown.
So it's not something you can control.
So epileptic seizures can happen at any age,
Yes. From what I've
regardless
noticed,
of predisposition.
yes. Genetics is the most common thing.
What about trauma?
Yes, head trauma is an acquired type of cause. That's why I say it can happen at any
At
age,
any
depending
age.
on the cause. What
Wow.
if you grew up to be a healthy young man and all of a sudden after you had an accident, you start having these seizures?
Okay, are seizures treatable?
Depends on the cost. too.
Again,
Yes.
but there are medications.
Yes, to reduce the seizure. So if you're in the hospital, depends on the context. The doctors and the nurses may administer muscle relaxants. Why some will just let you go through that episode, rest. So
So
it's,
is epilepsy a lifelong ailment?
yes, we can call it chronic. We can call it yes.
No. Okay, so you mentioned some diseases that might predispose someone to having epilepsy.
Yes.
Can you take us through it? So someone might know, okay, if I'm tending towards this ailment, I should be wary of possible seizure
So
attacks.
the most common disease is mostly malaria, the one that we are conversing with. Malaria.
Common malaria.
Yes. When you understand the physiology of how plasmodium travels, where it hatches, how it develops in your body, so at times the brain is one of the crucial areas. So you've heard of cerebral malaria. Okay, that's, I think, higher developed. On much cases you've been having this and it's been developing and enveloping into something more. Yes, malaria is something serious. It's just that I don't know how we don't research to know what killed a person.
True.
So we can't account for deaths. We don't know the particular cause because we always have this mystery shrouding the death.
Yes.
So we won't even go for autopsy. If we actually do these things, we may account that certain deaths are caused by diseases that we would have prevented. And when we're able to account that this disease can cause it, we know the geographical area, we know how to help these people. But the country and the citizens, so we have
Talking
these
about the country
obstacles.
and the citizens and obstacles, let me take you back to how to care for someone who has seizures. You made mention of calling an ambulance, which might not be obtainable in our client.
Added,
But there's
move
another
the person. Move the person.
there's another issue that I want you to talk about, the issue
Okay.
of crowds. Because when people collapse all of a sudden, or someone falls and starts having an epileptic episode, people will not touch them, but then they will not allow the person enough air.
They'll make videos.
They'll
and
make
all that.
videos. That's the annoying part. They make
Yeah.
videos rather than help this person. Now you're the only one who is aware and who is able to administer first aid. How do you manage the crowd?
Okay, we also discussed this issue during
At
our
the
outreach.
training,
Yes.
yeah.
So you made mention of something about relieving anxiety. That's what we are trying to do. People acknowledge someone that knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Once they see how confident you are, how you're able to think critically at that moment, they automatically listen to you. So you need to utilize them, show them that you're confident, show them that I know what I'm doing. Okay, and it needs to show from your behavior, your body movements. Don't be someone that you're saying something but your body is shaking. So you need to be that confident. Once they see, they will follow your lead.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now you mentioned something I want you to break down for us. You said it's status epilepticus.
Yes.
Please break down that's medical English.
Status is an English word, status.
Okay.
So the spelling, is it the spelling that we want to
No,
break down?
what is status epilepticus?
So
in English, in plain English.
No, there's no plain English word for it. It's a type of generalized seizure.
Okay.
But it's a serious, more serious type that we always see that the duration of the seizures are more than 5 minutes. So imagine what happens to a person having seizures
Continuous.
for 5 minutes. The muscles are all stiffened, the breathing, the airway. So imagine what will happen to that patient if he doesn't receive oxygen at least during those periods. So this status epilepticus, I'm not the one that invented the term. It's a medical term that has been laid on its own.
Now you said something about triggers.
Yes, triggers are very important.
Now there are some that are photosensitive,
yes,
right? Which means that sudden light
yes.
triggers. What are other normal triggers that normal people will not mind, but to an epileptic is an issue?
Some are sensitive to patterns, stripes on clothes. Those dot striped,
polka
checks.
Dots.
Yes, checks. You seen those checks for hair?
Yeah.
It's kind of confuses them, so it gives them this weary feeling, and then before you know, they may be having that episode. It's a trigger for them. These beeping lights is a trigger,
especially the ones that are on tricycles.
Yes.
Is there any campaign that has been done before now because those lights, they are not functional, they are just for aesthetics? Those outward shiny lights on
so what
tricycles.
we advise them is just your own. You need to manage yourself, and especially in a country where there is no much considerations for you, you need to put yourself into that consideration. So we always advise wearing glasses, blue glasses. From according to research, blue glasses are good, to avoid those.
Where can they get such blue glasses?
I think the lenses are available in the market, or optometrists, they can give you those lenses.
Okay. Now, in kids, let's get to kids.
Okay.
In children, can epilepsy cause autism?
No. They are totally different.
Okay, but there are some children who have autism and also have experience.
Coexist.
Oh, they coexist. Please tell us about
autism.
it.
So autism is a broad spectrum, but it's mostly developmental disorder. When you move into the psychiatric world, the psychology world, you notice that there are branches: mental illnesses, developmental disorders, learning difficulties, neurological disorders. So we won't want to put them in one bracket. So that's why we had to categorize them like that. So autism is more for a learning difficulty. That's a developmental disorder.
But can epilepsy, because it affects the brain,
coexist
can it also cause learning disorders?
We have debunked, is a myth that epilepsy can cause learning difficulties. What we say is a myth is depends on what it coexists with. That's before you say this person has been handicapped because of this disability. Some disabilities handicap people. Then epilepsy will be a coexisting disorder. So you've seen there's this learning difficulty and disability. I think profound multiple disabilities.
Wow.
Yes, so some have multiple. It's a profound disability. But the fact, autism is on its own.
On its own.
It's a broad field on its own. And even in that autism, there are special people that still are above average.
Yes. It's a spectrum, like you said.
Yes. So you can't put them saying that
All in one mood.
and that epilepsy can affect their intelligence, or that people that have epilepsy have low intelligence. No.
Okay, let's talk about epilepsy and pregnancy.
Okay.
How is it managed?
So in pregnancy, we normally call pregnancy seizure in pregnancy eclampsia.
Oh.
And it also depends on the cause. So it's mostly, you see them during antenatal, there's this test, urinalysis. Once there's protein in your urine, we advise you to go for further tests. So it's mostly blood pressure issues, people that have this hypertension in pregnancy. Because you know, pregnancy arouses a lot of things, precipitates a lot of things in you that have been dormant. So you see some that have these seizures is because of blood pressure issues.
So blood pressure can make a woman give birth to a child with epilepsy?
No. The concentration now is on the pregnant woman, not the baby.
Not the baby.
Yes.
Okay.
So this child, if you're a mother and you're pregnant and you know that you may be, the doctor has advised you that you may be predisposed to preeclampsia. That's pre is before the eclampsia. So they'll give you special orders and special treatment to manage you. So at this point now you're having this thing we call special pregnancy, where you be managed thoroughly to avoid any complications, because the complications can even lead to the loss of your life and the loss of your child's life. So you see, these are things in pregnancy and seizure. So I don't want people always using them interchangeably. Epilepsy is on its own, seizure is on its own, but seizure is a symptom of, is a characteristic of epilepsy. So now epilepsy is on its own. A lot of things can cause epilepsy, and then a lot of things can also cause seizure.
Seizures. That's right.
Yes.
All right, so we are gradually running out of time, but
Yes.
there's a question I'm itching to ask you. It's not strictly medical, but at least there should be a crossroad between the medical and the question I'm about to ask you. Now, because of the unprovoked nature of some seizures, it could happen anywhere.
Yes.
There are some kinds of jobs that people with epilepsy are asked not to do.
Yes,
Can you
that's
just
an
list some of those jobs
So,
and why
although
they are asked
we
not
don't
to
want
do?
to limit them. Yes, we want them to explore. But the honest truth is, some industries like the machinery industries, where the major uses and the major focus, the job descriptions has to do with operating machineries, we don't advise them to indulge in those professions, because what if you start having seizures when the machine is on? So we always advise them to move into office jobs that are stable and predictable.
And can be contained.
Yes.
But then who checks, when you think about the transporters, who actually goes to check their medical histories, drivers that you have,
And they won't like to tell you because of the stigma.
because of the stigma?
And once they say I'm epileptic, I don't think we can take you on this job. So that's why we let them explore, but we still let you know that there are some restrictions that you need to accept. This condition comes with it. Every condition has their restrictions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow, it's been fun, but we have some health tips that we want you to have a look at for your well-being and your health. So just take a listen to these health tips and we'll be right back after that. Many thanks for still staying with us. We've been talking about epilepsy awareness and how to help someone who is experiencing a seizure. Now, let's take on another aspect. Are there
Okay.
policies in place to protect people who maybe not singled out as epileptic, but people who have, tendencies to be susceptible or vulnerable in the workspace or in schools?
Okay.
Are there any policies at all?
Actually, there should be policies, but we don't actually term it for epilepsy people. We can say
Yes.
people living with disabilities.
Yes.
So there are acts, like Act 219 for people living with disabilities. It ensures that these people are exposed or they are privileged to receive educational, medical, and any other privilege like every other person. So these acts are things that ensure that there's this equality amongst people living with disability and people that do not live with disability. So the personal advice is people that have public spaces like restaurants, schools, you can actually implement some policies to favor these people. So you see some foreign forms where they'll ask you, do you have any other issue? So I believe that on those platforms too, they should give them the opportunity to say, I have a disability. Although some actually do it, it's been implemented now, but we need it to be enforced more.
But then will the stigma allow the patient actually state, okay, I have so and so disability?
So it's left to us.
So
I
it goes
believe,
both ways.
yes,
The
it's left for
awareness
us
is
to
for the people and for the patients
yes, we
too.
want to humanize this condition, make people understand that they are humans regardless of the condition they were not able to control. It's uncontrolled, it's unforeseen. So the least we can do is welcome them, stop the exclusivity, make them more included, the marginalization, because it may seem funny, but there are a lot of places where you can't even marry them.
True.
Because they have these issues.
True.
Or even in schools, they are mocked, they are cajoled by other children, and the elders, the principals or the authorities don't do things, to caution this
Discipline,
discipline
yeah.
these individuals that do these things. So I believe that there should be policies that protect them, both in schools, public spaces, and workplace. You see some there are some policies like making sure that there is a soft ground, so in case if anyone is to fall. So you see, this is beneficial to everyone. So if they have it, they can fall on a soft floor. You see some, yes, putting protection on the floor. You see some putting signs, So those are things, policies you can regulate to help
All
these
right.
people.
In 2 minutes, any parting shots or advice for someone listening to you now that knows he or she has epilepsy?
Okay, so my advice to that person is there's nothing to actually be afraid of. You can share your story, share your experience. You don't know who you might actually reach out to, who you may help. So that can be a touching, can be a greenstone for you. It can be a milestone that you achieved even before anything happens to you. So always be open to share your experiences. It may be hard, it will be tough because people may not welcome you at first, but we advise you to be brave, have this courage. The world is becoming more modernized. There's a revolution, so with time people will understand you.
That's right.
So that's my
All right,
advice
be
to them.
brave and be courageous. And on that note, we end today's edition of Inside Health. Thank you so much for staying with us up until the end of the show. Don't forget, your health is your responsibility. I'm Chigi Chagoram. Thanks for now.